What's up, guys? Lore here with another Heart of the Swarm beta replay to cast for you guys. This was actually sent in by a viewer. Unfortunately, I don't know which viewer it was that sent this in, or which player it was that was actually playing this. Down here in the southwest corner, maybe this is him, we have the Red Terran Vagier. Vagier. I'm going to say Vagier. Perhaps just Vag. That could be a bit vulgar. We'll see where this goes. And up here in the northeast corner, also possibly the viewer that sent this in, we have the Blue Terran, Bob. Just Bob hanging out up here in the northeast corner here on Star Station. So, really quickly before we get into this match, if you would like to get your hands on a Heart of the Swarm beta key, I have excellent news for you. I am giving away 5 beta keys every day, 4 beta keys every 5 days of the week here on my YouTube channel. The way to enter yourself into the random drawing is just to leave a comment on this cast. We'll be drawing those randomly from everybody who leaves a comment every day this week when I put up a Heart of the Swarm beta match. So, let's look at this game. Terran versus Terran here on Star Station. Bob is the first to scout, sends out his SCV across this away. It's not going to find anything up over there. We do have cross positions here on Star Station, which I don't believe are actually enforced. I don't think that that's actually something that they've done. I know that they've added a whole lot in terms of making the matches and doing a lot of the stuff that we see a lot of the tournaments do. For example, these unbuildable plates down here are taking the place of the neutral supply depot that we'll see in a lot of tournament maps to sort of prevent any sort of early blocking on that ramp, which is just kind of play that we don't really like to see because it's a little bit too strong and a little bit too gimmicky. But I don't know if the cross positions are actually enforced, so it may still be a good idea that Bob decided to scout in that direction. Either way, he will be spotting his opponent here very, very shortly as this SCV is moving into the correct position to scout this. Now, no gas yet from Vagier. He is building this barracks up over here, kind of hidden and secluded off to the side. We'll have to see if Bob actually spots that. He is going to head up over there, and yeah, there he does spot it. So he will know that that barracks is in production. That's kind of a hidden location up over there. I would assume intended to actually to sort of put that fear of an early cheese into his opponent's heart and say, you know what, if you don't scout that right away, then you don't know where the barracks is. So you may not notice, you may be a little bit worried about an early cheese, which in fact is not what is happening now. Instead, he's going for a 1 barracks expand, which will again be spotted by Bob's SCV as he moves around over here. In fact, he's trying to poke at it a little bit over here, but this 1 Marine will pop out in time to be able to deflect that and will kill the SCV as well. Now, meanwhile, Vagier is continuing to scout around. He did scout up over in that upper left corner at first, but now he's heading over to the right location where he will more than likely see about the same thing. There is no Marine out just yet for Bob, excuse me. So that he will not be able to deflect this SCV right away. I feel like with as late as this is actually coming, he should have been able to get that Marine out ahead of time, had him down there, and just block this SCV off entirely. Instead, what's going to happen is Vagier is going to get up over in here and see everything there is to see. Ooh, did he not actually? He did not spot that this early fast starport is on the way, and that could be a huge mistake for Vagier here, not scouting out the entirety of that base. He saw the factory, and he saw that the factory is working, so he might expect this Hellion, but he is not going to expect this starport. And oh, I think his plan is to move that starport up over there onto that. Yeah, he's going to move that starport up over there. We're going to see some fast Banshee play. Almost certainly, unless for whatever reason he goes for a Raven Rush or something, which I have seen actually happen in the past. But I'm going to guess that any second now, as soon as he hits the required 150-100, we're going to see a Banshee on the way. In fact, he's actually mistimed this a little bit. He doesn't quite have the resources just yet to be able to build that Banshee, but he will very shortly. And ooh, this Hellion over here in here doing a little bit of damage. No kills just yet. Good SCV control here out of Vagier. But he's not going to be able to do really any damage with that at all. He's just sort of poking around. There's only 1 Marine here. I feel like he could just kill the Marine, but instead, yeah, that Hellion did nothing at all. Sure, it bruised a few SCVs, or I guess singed would be a better way to put it, but wasn't actually able to do any damage. So that's been shut down by Vagier, and uh-oh, here he comes. He's going to come up in here, and he sees that. He sees it. He sees the starport. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for what? Did I miss a? I did not miss a Banshee. He moved the starport over onto the tech lab to build a medevac. Well, now at this point, it turns out that was the right choice because it's been scouted now. And we should see a response along those lines. Not dropping down any... he's just now building the engineering bay. Okay, so he did not have an engineering bay yet to be able to put down turrets, but that's why he's building that, I imagine. Otherwise, we'd see 2 of them if he was going for upgrades. So that accidentally worked out for Bob. I feel like that was a really weird thing to do at the start. Perhaps he was just trying to throw his opponent off and expecting the scout to happen. But instead, what he's now doing is he's going for... I've not seen this before. It's going to be really interesting to see how this works out. He's going for a Widow Mine drop. He's got 4 Widow Mines loaded up into that medevac, and he will send them down over here. And Widow Mines will... They've gotten a lot of work in the Heart of the Swarm beta. They've been changed several times. They no longer explode and detonate and kill themselves. Instead, what they do is they will burrow, and they'll actually fire rockets at anything that comes within range of them. So... really interesting to see how well this works out. It could actually be really dangerous if Vagier doesn't respond to him properly, but I imagine there'll be something that's relatively easy to clean up because they do have a very, very slow fire rate, and he's not noticed. Vagier has not yet noticed that this drop is going. Okay, there now he notices it, and Bob is going to head up over here and drop down some Widow Mines, send them off to burrow. They're going to be able to get a few volleys off, but they attack slowly enough. And they're actually not able to completely kill Marines with their first shot. So, and he does have these missile turrets down over here now, so he will be able to clean all of that up. That drop was not as effective as it could have been or needed to be. So, Bob in a bit of a weird position now. He had that really weird early opener with the tech lab onto the starport that he just did not use. And was not, like, he had a huge opening there because Vagier did not spot it. But instead, he just elected not to do anything about it. So, really weird choice to actually go with that opener for Bob. I feel like he kind of... It might have been something that maybe he saw somebody do it once and just thought, well, that seems like a good idea, but failed to completely understand why they do it. Meanwhile now, let's check in on the production of these 2 players. We do have 1 upgrade each in production right now. Not going for double upgrades. In fact, where is his... Oh, he does have double upgrades going up over here. Bob does. I just did not see the icon. Oh, it's underneath the thing. Okay, there we go. Did not see the icon. So we do have double upgrades on the way for Bob. And Vagier now has his 2nd engineering bay up and running as well. So double upgrades from both players on the way. So that's good. Both players are keeping up with that. Stim is on the way from Vagier. In fact, he's about to finish Siege Tech there as well. He's got both Stim and Combat Shields in production for Vagier. It does not look like... Okay, just now Combat Shields has been started for Bob, and Stim is already researched. He's got this command center here, and yeah, he's going to lift that down and go for his 3rd expansion, which Vagier is now building at his 3rd expansion. So both players are relatively even in terms of economy. If we check the units tab to see SCVs, Bob actually has the SCV lead. He's up by 5, but not a huge lead either way, especially since he's not yet making use of this expansion down over here, sending 1 SCV down to transfer. Oh, he's actually using it to build a refinery. No SCV transfer at all. So he's just going to opt to build his SCVs and train them down there. And in fact, did I check that? Yeah, he actually has not turned this into an orbital just yet. There it goes. Just now starting the orbital command there. And ramping up medevac production. So heading for, it looks like both players actually heading for a very bio-focused army in this match. Which usually turns out to be the player with the most medevacs wins, and whoever can back it up properly with siege tanks. We have 2 siege tanks out now for Vagier. Excuse me. Yeah, 2 siege tanks out for Vagier, 3 siege tanks out for Bob. And Bob has actually got 1 loaded into this drop over here. Looks like he might be going for another drop. I'm not sure where he has those sent. Let's see. He's headed down over this way, down this way. Looks like he's sending them right here to the front. That's an interesting place to drop, the front of your opponent's base. Not really the ideal location for a drop, I wouldn't say. You could just walk there. But we'll see what he ends up doing with that. Vagier is adding on a 4th base now, as these guys continue to head down here directly into a whole bunch of Marines and Marauders. Let's see if he actually decides to drop them there, or if he pulls back. No, he is going to drop them right at the... I don't know why he decided to go for a drop in that regard. Could have just walked them down there and, in fact, had that set up ahead of time. And instead, he loses the siege tank right away. The bio units will continue to push through here, but now another wave of bio units with Stim coming in from Vagier will force Bob to pick up and pull back. He does still have this full medevac, though, so he's going to swing around over here, but ooh... Vagier was expecting that and is going to chase that medevac away. So another drop deflected for Vagier. Bob is now behind. In fact, he's supply blocked, sitting at 97 supply. He's gone for a planetary fortress on this third as well, which is an interesting choice indeed, as his opponent has gone for an orbital command at his third, and looks like oh, he hasn't quite finished building this yet. I would expect to see an orbital command at this one too, honestly. Like, a planetary there wouldn't be bad, but I'm guessing we're gonna see a planetary, or excuse me, an orbital. And yes, that is in fact what he builds there, is an orbital. And this expansion here, this fourth base here, actually makes this planetary an even stranger choice, because it's going to be blocked off essentially by this expansion here. Like, obviously he could swing up over there, but if he swings up in this direction, he's going to go straight up in that direction as well. I don't know. I feel like this planetary was a bit overeager. Could have been an orbital for an even better economy. Drop down here, once again being deflected from Bob. Vagier has been all over those drops, deflecting them like crazy, not really letting them do any damage at all, which is surprising considering that neither player has the Xel'Naga watchtowers. It's surprising how effective he's been at watching that minimap and just seeing the second anything blue appears on his minimap, he's all over that. We do have a sensor tower up for Bob, which is a bit of a... I'm not really a huge fan of sensor tower play personally. It's something we see a lot in lower tier play where they're not quite as good as watching the minimap, but otherwise it seems like just wasted minerals in higher tiers of play. However, Bob should now recognize that he is behind in terms of economy. This expansion down here is up and running. This one is not yet. And although Vagier has supply blocked himself, in fact, he now has 4 supply depots in production. There they are. That will fix that in a hurry. Even though he is supply blocked, it is a bit of a... I'm actually going to check the income tab and see here. Wow, Bob actually has the higher income. However, it is important to point out that Vagier has more orbital commands, so he will be much better. Never mind, hang on, an encounter going on over here. Bob gets a nice concave there and actually was able to do some damage ahead of time. Oh, he's going to pick up and drop on top of that siege tank, and that will be dangerous. There is the drop. He's going to drop on top of that siege tank, be able to kill that off, but now more units coming in from Vagier. I feel like he had a window of opportunity to sneak in there and do some damage, but he wasted it by pulling back. He could have just pushed into that siege tank. Yeah, he would have taken some damage, but he would have been able to take out that siege tank. Instead, he seems to have completely lost focus. He's going to lose a full medevac full of Marines. Oh, that is unfortunate. Meanwhile, there is another attack going on over here. This is probably what was distracting him. I should have been paying a little bit more attention to the minimap. Sorry about that. There is an attack going on up over here where he did manage to kill that expansion that was over there. He's actually now going to set up on the Xel'Naga watchtower, but he's set up, unfortunately, in range of this siege tank. Does manage to kill that siege tank off, but did take a little bit of damage in the meantime. This drop over here picks up yet again, but will be cleaned up by Vagier. So a bit of a misdrop by Vagier. I suppose that this attack down over here may have served better as a distraction, because he was able to come over here and attack and drop on this expansion, which is now being replaced by Vagier. Was able to drop on that expansion, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be doing the damage it really needs to. Meanwhile, we do have a medevac sitting up over here. It doesn't appear to have actually done anything yet, but it has been spotted by this sensor tower. I don't know if he realizes that he's sitting right in the middle of a sensor tower as he continues to move around here. So he is going to go ahead and pull back out of there. And wow, another planetary fortress coming up for Bob. He apparently just really does not like the idea of being dropped himself, so he's going to continue to build planetary fortresses. And honestly, though, what I was saying a minute ago, the drop play from Bob, even though he was able to kill off this expansion over here and force it to remake, which, by the way, he's adding on yet another command center. Even though he was able to kill off that expansion, he's not doing the damage he needs to be, because he's not able to really damage Vagier's army. He's getting farther and farther behind in terms of both supply and production, and now upgrades as well. It looks like Vagier is going up to 3-3, whereas he will very soon be finished with 3-3, whereas Bob is sitting at... Ooh, and we may see an engagement here. Moving in there from Vagier. He's got half of his army still in. Well, not half, but a bunch of his army still in that medevac. Looked like he was caught in the middle of trying to pick up, and that's the kind of attack that Bob really needs to get himself to exert his lead here. He managed to pick off quite a few units there, including several which were still inside of a medevac. Now moving in over here, and this is going to hurt quite a bit. There is really not much of anything that Vagier can do to fight this. He's going to have to sacrifice this expansion. He's going to try and repair it, but there's so much there that, wow, he's actually Okay, huge mistake there from Bob. He was trying to target fire that orbital command despite taking siege tank hits when he needed to be killing off the SCVs or doing what he's doing now, which is heading over there to kill off that siege tank. He does now kill the siege tank, but he's taken way too long. And now Vagier's army is going to move over here. Oh, Vagier should be turning. There he goes. He's going to turn around, and now he should be able to clean that up. Bit of a sloppy engagement from both sides, honestly. We saw right before that, in fact, he should be killing that medevac also. It looks like he will finally finish off that medevac. Vagier just before that lost a whole bunch of units over here due to, it looked like he was picking up to go for a huge drop, but instead got caught and just did not react properly to that by picking up the rest of his units and running away. But then immediately after that, Bob moved over in here. He went to target fire this orbital command, but did not have the appropriate, wow, lots of scans going off. Did not have the appropriate, even another scan. Did not have enough damage to target fire that thing down in time with the SCVs healing it. Should have been going after the SCVs at that point, or moving over here to take out that siege tank that was just sitting there at basically no health. But did not do either of those, and thus was deflected. But even in the middle of that, we saw Vagier making some odd choices in terms of his actual attack patterns in there. Now sieging up outside of this fourth base here from Bob, doing some damage. The SCVs will come over to repair, and in fact, these ones in the back are just out of range, where I don't believe... in fact, I don't believe any of them are actually taking damage, splash damage from the... Yeah, no SCVs killed just yet by either of these siege tanks. Oh, there's one just now. So, however... Oh, this is unfortunate. He has not noticed that his SCV... Once those SCVs repair it to full, they will stop repairing, and he has not noticed that that's happened, unfortunately. More and more units now streaming up over here for Vagier, so Bob... He will be able to defend. There now, he's noticed that it's taking damage. So Bob will come down here to defend. Vagier needs to move his units up over there. He needs to intercept this force that's pushing in on his army. And again, not quite reacting quickly enough to Bob's unit movement. Now Vagier is going to be forced back in this engagement. So back and forth trades. I feel like a lot of these trades should have gone completely in the opposite direction, though. Vagier had more than enough units over there to be able to push back Bob when he moved in for his attack. But unfortunately, he just did not recognize that Bob was attacking just yet. He should have been watching for that. I mean, you have to understand. You have to anticipate, that when you go in for an attack, your opponent is probably going to try to defend that at some point. You need to be watching for that very closely, even if it's just on the minimap. Now, Bob coming in here, and once again will try to target fire down that orbital command, and will this time, putting Vagier in a very, very unfortunate position where he has now lost several of his bases. He does have this one over here up and running again, but he's now down to 3 mining bases to Bob's 4. So he is going to try and add on this base over here. Vagier is, but yeah. By the way, I'm really curious if Vagier is actually just like French or something for vagina. That'd be really awkward if I've been saying that this entire time. Hopefully that has not been the case. Whatever, I'm going to keep saying it. He's now moving up over in here. Going to try and target fire this factory. Strange choice. I'm going to leave it burning and just keep heading on up in here. I think now he realizes that this army is screwed. It's going to die. He's just got to do as much damage with it as he can before it eventually does die. He's going to try and target fire down the orbital command, but no, the SCVs come off of the line to repair that at the last moment, and that orbital command will live to see another day. So, yeah, another strange little choice. I feel like he should have turned around as soon as he saw that army to begin with. Honestly, this factory may actually burn down, though. If nothing comes over here, there's some SCVs coming over there to repair that army. So, good to see. He is keeping on top of that, and will recognize that that factory would die without some repairs. And then move over to repair it. Now, interestingly enough, both players have been just sort of sitting on the same thing for a long time. We do see Vagier just now, or excuse me, Bob actually, just now starting to move over into somewhere around here. If I can find the factory, well, I can't find the factory, but somewhere, there they are. There's 3 factories up front here. Bob has now moved into Thor production. In fact, managed to secure himself a pretty substantial supply lead. He's up around 40 supply. Getting scanned like crazy, so now Vagier will know that those Thors are out there. In fact, continuing to scan. I don't know what the point of that scan was. He should have been able to tell that the army was on its way. But maybe he just wanted to know exactly how big it was, which is pretty big, Vagier. You may have a bit of a something too big coming your. This is awful. There we go. coming in for this attack over here with the Thors coming in behind, taking a couple of shots before he moves in, but there he goes, now stimming and moving in. That army is not nearly enough to be able to block this off. There is the planetary over there. He's going to try and target fire that down and will be able to, and then clean up the rest of this over here. No, that was a whole lot of lost mules on that mining as well. But meanwhile, Vagier is coming in over here attacking this planetary fortress. He will be able to target fire that down. And Bob will have to run away from that. So we may have a bit of a base trade scenario going on over here. This army is now moving in. Is he going to? Yes, he is going to move right into Vagier's main and continue to try and do damage while Vagier is coming up over here, taking out another planetary fortress from Bob. Bob still has a pretty substantial supply lead, but a lot of that, honestly, is going to be held up in the 30 extra SCVs that he's got, which means that at this point now, Vagier actually has the stronger army. In fact, he's going to clean up this army here from Bob and continue to do damage up over here. So Bob, in terms of his unit count, really just doesn't have. He has 10 Marines, a siege tank, a couple Vikings, and a Thor to the 22 Marauders and 22 Marines of Vagier. So this army is going to be able to continue to sort of wreak havoc around over here. I feel like these siege tanks could move up, but otherwise this army is continuing to wreak havoc, doing as much damage as possible, taking out that Thor, taking out a few more Marines and Marauders, and I feel like I'm honestly like not sure what Bob can really do to come back from this. He's got tons and tons of minerals in the bank. He should be producing Marines like crazy, but he just isn't. I don't know what Bob is doing right now. Oh dear, he does have a whole bunch of battlecruisers though, so that's going to clean that up in a hurry. Marauders unfortunately cannot shoot up, so those battlecruisers will finish up the rest of that. However, having now shown that he has battlecruisers that early on, I feel like that's not, you kind of want to be able to hold on to those for a little bit longer. I don't know, we'll have to see what happens. He's got 4 more battlecruisers in production. With all of those minerals though, he really should be, there we go, now producing a whole bunch of Marines to back up that battlecruiser army. Vagier, that was an interesting stim. I'm sure, I believe he was chasing something down there, but interesting nonetheless. He's now done a ton of damage to this particular group. By the way, 2 more expansions coming up over here for Bob, and there come the battlecruisers coming in. This army will be cleaned up. He continues to stim for no real reason. He's going to try and come up over here just to escape, I guess was why he was stimming, but he's not going to be able to clean that up in time. And he's going to walk right headlong into a whole bunch of Marines from Bob. Kills off 1 or 2 of them, but otherwise loses that entire army. And now Bob has once again taken a substantial supply lead in this game. He's got a whole bunch of battlecruisers, 9 battlecruisers out on the field now, as well as this continued Marine production, which should put him, if he continues to keep up with it, should put him maxed out very, very soon. And honestly, he has enough of an army now that I feel like he should be able to just win with this, what he's got right here. These Marines are going to come up in here. They're going to stim and try and target fire down that 1 battlecruiser, but not nearly enough to be able to actually do that. And now heading down over here, I believe we may be hearing the bell toll for Vagier. There just isn't much that he's going to be able to do with this. In fact, these Marines are now heading down over here. They're going to go right into the siege tanks, but he's going to wisely move right up on those siege tanks, clean them up in a hurry. This expansion should go down very soon. These battlecruisers could be moving around to do some more damage as well, having a little bit of a multitasking error. Not quite able to keep up with both of his armies at once, but he is going to pull back out of there. And then should be, ooh, now he's picked up some Vikings as well to go along with that Sky Terran army. And he's going to move away with these Marines, save them from this army over here, which again, stimmed, dealing a whole ton of damage to his own units. And he just does not have the medevacs to be able to deal with that. In fact, he has 0 medevacs. So every stim hurts quite a bit right now for Vagier. He has sent a small contingent of Marines up over here to deal some damage to this expansion, but the battlecruisers say, hey, excuse me, no, sir, you may not. And those guys are going to get cleaned up in quite a hurry. We'll manage to pick off a couple of SCVs, but what did he seriously just Yamato cannon Marines? Bob, that's, no, don't do that. Just don't. No, Yamato cannon is not for Marines. Well, that was a bit silly, but either way, Bob is now maxed out. As soon as these 10 Marines pop, I believe we will be seeing a final push out of Bob over here. He's got a bunch of Marines over here cleaning up bits and pieces of Vagier's army, and in fact, now with these Vikings up over here, picking off the couple of Vagier's Vikings, he's going to come into this engagement over here. That's a bad engagement for Bob, But behind that, these battle cruisers over there are going to deal a bunch of damage. And in fact, that's left the battle cruisers in kind of a good position to turn around over here and deal some more damage. He is going to move around behind now and should be able to clean these guys up, no problem. Does lose one battle cruiser, but those Marines and Marauders are just so hurt at this point. The Marauders obviously can't shoot up. And with these Vikings now on the ground, he's got a pretty substantial army to be able to clean up the rest of this. It looks like Vagier is going to move over here for one last-ditch effort to try and do some damage over here, but that planetary fortress alone is going to kill that entire army. That weird planetary fortress from earlier on is now doing its work, and that will be the end of that army very shortly. Vagier gives the GG as Bob was about to move in and finish off the rest of his base there. But yeah, GG's to both players. Bit of a weird back and forth. Not really the greatest play. We saw a lot of mistakes from both players being made in a lot of those engagements, but Bob managed to come out on top there with a much stronger economy and much stronger production to eventually seal that win by just having a lot more stuff. Anything really works. Any sort of unit will counter any other unit if you have enough of them. I mean, I've seen people win versus Banshees with roaches just by having a whole ton of roaches and killing the other guy before he was able to do anything. So that's going to wrap that game up. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Lore, and I'll see you in the next match.